Hey guys, welcome to another video. Today we're going to be taking a quick look at a drafting game that brings sushi to the game table at your game nights. We're going to be reviewing Sushi Go. Alright guys, so this is Sushi Go. It's a lot of fun to play, it's easy to learn, easy to teach, but it's a drafting game that allows players to sit down at a table and have a lot of fun with not a lot of rules. All the points are on the card so that you don't even have to have the rule book out, so it's a lot of fun to play. Before we actually get into the actual mechanics and the cards themselves, I just want to give a quick shout out to Phil Walker, who's the game designer. He did an excellent job putting the game together, and it's great for kids, it's great for adults, it's a great party game. And it's just one of those games where you can actually sit down and have a conversation while the game is going on. It's not that deep, but let's go ahead and get into the actual gameplay itself. So the way this drafting game works is you get a hand of cards, and depending on how many people you play with will determine the number of cards you start with. And you'll draft one card face down and pass the rest of your cards to the person to your left. So vice versa, you're going to get a hand from the person from your right. Before you draft your next card, you'll actually flip the first card over, showing everybody what you drafted. And then you'll just rinse and repeat that process until all the cards are drafted. So at the end of each round, when all the cards are gone, you will score up all the cards, and we'll go over the scoring for each cards here in a minute, and then tally those up, and then you'll do it again with the next set of cards. You'll draft a card, pass the cards to your right this time, and then flip your first card over, and then draft again, and so on and so forth. You'll go through that 3 times, so 3 different rounds, score up each round individually, and then whoever has the most points at the very end wins the game. So let's kind of go into the actual scoring system of the game. Like I said, all the point values are at the bottom of each card, so you don't have to memorize anything. But the first set of cards that I've got set aside here are tempura. Now these are drafted in sets of 2 to actually score points. So you have, for every 2 tempura you have, you get 5 points. So if you have 4, you get 10. If you have 6, you've got 15, and so on in that fashion. Kind of in the same vein, you've got sashimi. This is drafted in 3s, so for every 3 you get 10 points. So if you have 6, you get 20, and so on like that. And what's nice about that is, or what's challenging about that rather, is if you only have 1 tempura, you don't get any points. And the same thing goes with the sashimi. You don't get any points if you have 1 or 2. Moving on, we have the dumplings. Now these are my favorite cards because every one you pick up is worth something. So the first one is worth 1 point, the second one is worth 3 points, the third one is worth 6 points, the fourth one is worth 10 points, and the fifth one is worth 15 points. So if you can collect 5 in one round, that's a huge point advantage for you. These usually kind of go left undone because they're not a high scorer until you get multiples. So I highly recommend prioritizing those really high. Next up, we have the Maki roll. This kind of gets to be a little interesting because of the way it's scored. So the Maki roll cards have 1, 2, or 3 Maki rolls on them, and whoever at the end of each round has the most Maki rolls will get 6 points, and whoever has the second most will get 3 points. So you can kind of see, like, they're big red cards, so they're a little bit more eye-catching. So when you see someone drafting these, you're like, oh, how many Maki rolls do you have? And like, you start drafting against them. So this card actually gets very competitive very quick. If there's a tie, then the sum of the number is split in half for those people to add to their point total. This next set of cards rather is a lot of fun to play with just because there's so much you can do with them. So they're each worth their individual value. So the nigiri set is egg nigiri is worth 1, salmon nigiri is worth 2, and squid nigiri is worth 3. Now where it gets interesting is you bring in wasabi, which is an extra card. It's not worth anything on its own, but your next nigiri that you draft is multiplied by 3. So let's say you draft your wasabi first, and later on in the game, it doesn't have to be the next turn, but later on that round, you draft a squid nigiri. Now that squid is no longer worth 3 points, but it's worth 9. So that's a great way to kind of catch up if you're behind. So that's the way the nigiri works. So it's a great way to kind of differentiate yourself from player 2 if you're player 1, or if you're in last place, it's a great way to kind of catch up a little bit, get a few extra points under your belt. The last 2 cards that I want to talk about are kind of like special cards. So the first one is Chopsticks. This one allows you to draft 2 cards at once. So the way it would work would, you get your hand of cards, right? Or you receive a hand of cards, you draft Chopsticks face down, and then you pass your cards to the left. You get your second hand here, and you get to flip over Chopsticks, announce to everybody Chopsticks, or some people say Sushi Go, or whatever, and you get to draft 2 cards face down, and you put the Chopsticks back in your hand for the next person to draft or whatnot. So this is a great way to kind of pick up a pair of like tempura, or if you're missing like a maki roll to kind of take the lead. It's also another way to kind of round out some of your drafts. So if you only have like 2 sashimi and 1 tempura, you can pick up one of each and really kind of combo off there. So the last card, this is kind of like the equalizer card. At the end of the game, this is when this card is scored. So throughout each of the rounds, you'll draft these pudding cards. They aren't worth anything in round 1, 2, or 3, but at the end of the game, you tally up how many puddings you have, and whoever has the most gets 6 points, and whoever has the least, including 0, gets minus 6 points to their overall total. So it's kind of like that equalizer card where if you're not paying attention, you might not get any. You might get 0 points. If you only draft 1 or 2. But in most cases, it's the person that doesn't have any is the one that gets negative 6. So just be on the lookout for that. Like I said, it's also kind of like the nigiri and the wasabi. It's a great way to kind of catch your opponents off guard. Just draft 1 or 2 a round, and then before you know it, you've got the majority of them. So at the end of the day, Sushi Go isn't a very complex game. It's not very, it's not very deep in its concept, but where it lacks in that deep concept type of game, strategy game, it's a fun pick up and play, play a couple hands. Like I said, you can sit down, play this game, and have a conversation at the table while you're playing the game. It doesn't require a lot of thought process. I'm going to give the game a 7.5 out of 10. It's definitely worth picking up. It's great on anybody's gaming shelf. It's a great game for a gift. So if you've got a board game player in your family or someone on your list to buy for this year, it's definitely worth picking up. It's a great game. Thanks for watching the video. Give us a thumbs up if you like the review. Leave a comment below if you've played Sushi Go before, and kind of like what your take on it is as far as gameplay is concerned. Make sure you get subscribed on your way out, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching.